Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the NASW New York Cares Community Engagement Initiative for the second event for the Fall 2025 Policy Series, which is led by Amanda Presley and Gideon Mose, the NASW policy team. My name is Dr. Shakara Kennedy. I am the Executive Director for NASW New York. So there are a couple of things to look forward to. We still have another event coming up, and we have our Capital Action Day, which is next year, 2026, February 10th, which also will include an advocacy training. Post-event, you'll receive an email that will share all the information about what's happening at the chapter, as well as any other resources or information provided by tonight's guests. Please remember that by registering for NASW New York events, you agree to abide by NASW New York anti-harassment policy, the link of which I will drop in the chat for you shortly. But before we begin, we want to just take a moment to acknowledge that NASW New York recently experienced a Zoom bombing incident during our free virtual cares programming. We are actively communicating with our national office. We're implementing stronger preventive and responsive protocols as these types of disruptions have unfortunately been on the rise across virtual platforms across the nation. While we're taking every precaution, we want to prepare you that should an incident occur today, it may involve hateful or emotionally disturbing content. Please know that we are ready to immediately handle an incident should it occur again. Once again, thank you all for joining us this evening. If you have any questions about this event or any other community engagement events at NASW New York, I will drop my email into the chat shortly as well. Without further ado, we have a great lineup for you. And before I introduce my first guest, I just want to welcome you as NASW New York Executive Director. I'm really excited about the policy series. This is a great time to get engaged in policy and also politics. Last night was energizing. We're looking for people to join our advocacy committees. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us and be a part of the solution. So let me move forward and introduce our CEO of NASW National, in charge of all the chapters, Dr. Anthony Street. Dr. Street.
Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. So excited to be here. First, let me give a huge shout out to the NASW New York team for such an amazing, amazing program and acknowledging the Zoom bombing that happened. It is unfortunate that people try to find ways to hate on a time when social workers are coming together, but a huge shout out to the whole New York team for sticking with that program and just really showing the resilience of social workers. And like you said, New York, it's a great time to be in New York. What an electrifying night last night, watching everybody vote and just seeing all the people show up for voting all around the country. And this, if nothing else tells you this, social work is political, right? And so some of the things that we can look forward to is really understanding how social work informs politics, but also how politics impacts social work, right? So when we think about the reduction of SNAP benefits, when we think about the federal shutdown, how does that impact social workers? How does that impact the communities that we serve? And these are the questions that should keep you up at nighttime, but also should give you a lot of energy around how do we solve these problems? How do we prevent the government from shutting down? How do we prevent the loss of SNAP benefits? But more so, what are some interesting things happening in New York City, right? And so I had the interesting time. Sorry, guys, I had to pull over while driving to do this because I didn't want to miss this opportunity. So you hear a lot of outside noise right now because I'm literally standing on the sidewalk doing this with you all. And so I had the amazing opportunity last week to present at Afrotech around mental health technology and social work and really what that looks like, right? And so being in a space with so many people talking about artificial intelligence, it really does lead way to where social workers are in that process, and understanding that social work needs to be not only on the application end, but on the design and development aspect of all tech and all AI and all innovation. And how do we keep those connections human centered so that we are not replacing humans, but augmenting the work that we're doing to better serve the humans that they're designed to help. And so you have an amazing lineup of policy issues that you're going to be focusing on. So AI, pay for placement, which is a huge one, right? Public service loan forgiveness. I know you all just saw if you've been keeping up. We just joined a lawsuit this week against the federal government around public service loan forgiveness, which is going to benefit social workers and the social work profession to be able to take out loans, but also as they're engaging in public service, being able to access that program to get some debt relief from those loans. And lastly, really thinking about how does how do we increase pay for social workers, right? And so what does that look like from the aspect of school-based mental health, but also from all social workers, right? As we think about the concept of pay for placement and social work pay, we can't talk about either one without acknowledging the other. So as we're talking about pay for placement for students, we're also talking about increasing pay and reimbursement for social workers across the board, right? And so for us, this really does mean a an effort across not just NASW members, but all social workers, that we use our voice, we advocate for higher pay, for higher reimbursement, but also for our profession to be recognized for the professionals that they are, right? And so when we think about technology, when we think about school-based mental health, when we think about all the areas that we occupy, how many of you all are identifying as social workers and really taking that name forward so people know that when they're interacting with you, you are a social worker? And so I'm super excited about the work that New York is doing, all of the policy series, all of the student series. So keep up the great work. I'm so excited to be able to come here tonight and talk to you all and really just give you introductions into this. And I look forward to the next time I'll be up there, which will be February, right, Dr. Kennedy?
You're absolutely correct.
So
February 10th.
I will be in the building live in person on February 10th. If you're not there, I hope to see you all there, and make sure I'm not I do not bite. So come and say hi. I am very friendly. So come and say hi, and I will see you all in February.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Enjoy the program, everybody.
Yes, good night. Thank you so much, Dr. Street.
All right, I gotta
All
get home
right.
now.
Yes, go home, get home. Bye. So that was just really great. We are going to move forward with Megan Marshall. Megan, jump in.
Hello, hello. Let me get my screen share up and get organized here. Awesome. Y'all can see my screen okay? Okay, great. Hello, I am Megan Marshall. I'm excited to be talking to you all about one of the many ways that you can get involved as a social worker in advocacy through the chapter, which is the AGR committee. And I'll dig into that a little bit more in a moment, but so you know who you're talking to. This is me. I'm the current chair of the Advocacy and Government Relations Committee, or AGR, as you'll hear us call it. I'm a macro social worker, and my background spans workforce development, economic justice, nonprofit work, and legislative work with the state assembly. And now I'm a free agent, I like to call myself. I work as a writer, facilitator, and consultant for nonprofits and social justice organizations. And I've been a chair for a little over a year now, I believe, but I joined AGR back in 2021 because I really wanted to stay connected to my fellow social workers and broaden my horizons a little bit with the social workers I was connected to, as well as fight to improve our profession. And AGR has been a wonderful way to do that. But what is AGR? So in the past, quick history here, the chapter's advocacy was handled by an independent consultant, but today AGR gives the members direct power in shaping our chapter's legislative agenda. So the formulation of the AGR committee put the chapter's legislative work back in the hands of members of social workers who understand the issues impacting what we do every day and those we serve firsthand, right? Because this won't be the first time you hear this today, probably, but there should be no decision made about us without us, and AGR and our legislative work being done this way, make sure that that's the reality. And how we work together. So the AGR committee meets monthly, and that's where the bulk of our work is done. In those monthly meetings, we discuss, our work, the progress we made, what comes next, and that's what keeps us driving forward. And the number of monthly meetings can increase around the legislative session when it gets a little busy, but we always have at least one per month for us to continue our work together. Um, But to go back to kind of what the year-round process of the AGR committee looks like, we start off by doing some policy research, right? So we start by defining our legislative agenda each year through a discussion about existing legislation that could support our profession and those we serve, alongside a brainstorm of other topics that maybe don't yet have legislation backing them, but we identify as challenges that need solving or need a solution, and we think we can do that through policy. So we come up with a big list of ideas and topics, some carried over from previous years, some new things. And from there, we whittle it all down. We whittle all that brainstorming down into a list of ideas that we then vote on. And each year, we typically want to zero in on 3 to 5 main priorities each year because that helps us have a more focused conversation when we meet with legislators. It makes our ask clear, easy to understand, easy to grasp without it being muddied by a lot of other different topics. Because there's a lot of things that we want to change, but each year we got to figure out which are the ones that we can really move the needle on, right? Um, so we vote, and after that vote, it goes to the board of the NASW for final approval. And from there, those priorities become the foundation for what we advocate for on Capital Action Day, which I'll talk about a little bit more about in a moment. But AGR members are expected to attend and take on a leadership role at Capital Action Day. And we also support the amazing, amazing work that the NASW team does to create that day. There's a lot of planning involved, and so the team will sometimes ask the AGR committee to step in and help out with some ideas or other things that they may need on an as-needed basis. So those are kind of the that's the main bulk of how we work together as AGR committee, but there's other things sprinkled in throughout the year. Advocacy is not a one-time event, right? If we're fighting for something, we gotta keep that momentum going. So there's numerous events and things that occur that the NASW team will hear about and ask AGR members to come and support and participate in. So we can speak to others, get kind of knowledge of what's going out there, and also start putting out our priorities and what we're fighting for. In addition to that, we use our voices in other ways by speaking at said events or writing things like op-eds. And you can find some of those op-eds in the NASW's Currents newsletters. So AGR members have contributed to that. So I encourage you to check that out if you have not. So that's the high level of how we work together. And for the priorities that we voted on for this year that we'll be advocating for at Capital Action Day, there's 4 of them. If you attended the other policy series event, there's a deeper dive into this, and I think Amanda has a recording for that. So you might have heard about these already, but for those who haven't, the first priority we're focusing on is expanding loan forgiveness for social workers. We're pushing for all social workers, not just licensed LMSWs, to qualify for loan forgiveness, and the ask calls for these awards to be tied to 3 years of service in shortage areas. So the goal is to support recruitment, retention, and financial support to social workers while also filling gaps in service areas where social workers are needed most. So it kind of works on both ends there. For this priority, we're also trying to get into the governor's budget. So we have the NASW team has put together an act now that you can fill out, pretty please, to help us encourage the governor to include social work loan forgiveness in her State of the State address and her budget. Amanda, I can't see if you've already put it in the chat, but if you haven't, if you could help me out, put that act now in the chat for us. And if you guys want to go ahead and fill that out now, I would encourage you to do so. I'm gonna keep talking. I won't be disappointed if you're distracted in filling that out. I would love for you to do that and maybe drop an emoji or something in the chat to let us know that you did, and we'll be very, very grateful for that. But for now, I'm going to keep on pushing for the sake of time. Our second priority that's up here, which Dr. Estreet kind of talked about a little bit, is establishing an MSW paid field placement pilot. And so some of you may have heard of P4P or payments for placements. That's an alliteration that I'm stumbling over. But this is where that piece of legislation comes from, is the Payments for Placements group. And it calls on the Office of Mental Health to administer a pilot that would provide $4,500 stipends for up to 450 field hours, the required field hours, to MSW students completing their placements in New York. Unpaid labor should not be a barrier to entering this profession, but it is a significant challenge for many aspiring MSWs. I was one of them. I'm sure some of you are also experiencing this right now, and I know I am not alone in that experience, and it's something we really need to fight for, and I feel very passionate about that one. Um, Thirdly is improving student to social worker ratios in schools. This priority calls on the New York State Education Department to establish statewide ratios of mental health professionals per student, and then mandates that districts employ said ratios of those professionals at each of their schools. There's a youth mental health crisis. We need more jobs for social workers, so this one kind of tackles both of those challenges in one go, and I think that's very important. More opportunities for social workers and more opportunity for our young people to get the support they need and deserve. And fourthly, we talked about, as Dr. S. Street talked about AI and all that a little bit before, but the next priority is to protect the social work profession from unregulated AI. And this priority mirrors a piece of legislation that was passed in Illinois, and the NASW staff and the AGR committee are in conversation with the bill sponsor to make sure this language really supports, protects, and uplifts the profession as AI kind of consumes many facets of our daily lives, personal and professional. But its main goal at a very, 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 very high level is to regulate the use of the AI in therapy by prohibiting licensed professionals from using it without patients' informed consent. And it also outlines what it is okay for those folks to use AI for, like notes and things like that. And there's stipulations about what would happen if that misuse occurs. But if you want to read, I'm not going to talk about these any longer because there's so much we could say, but for the sake of time, if you want to dig in deeper to learn more about these priorities, I have a link at the bottom of my slide here, but if you go to the NASW New York State Advocacy page, the team's put together so many incredible resources for you guys to wrap your heads around that and get prepared for when you come to Capital Action Day and get to talk about these things. So I'm going to keep on trucking. And we're going to talk about Capital Action Day, but I want to talk about why it matters and why we need social workers to turn up, show out, and make our legislators hear us. Because for me, at least, it can be easy to forget at times that our legislators work for us, right? They work for us, or they should be working for us. And sometimes we just really need to use our voices and remind them of that fact. And Capital Action Day is, in my opinion, a great opportunity to do so. For those of you who do not know, Capital Action Day is the chapter's biggest advocacy event of the year. It happens every year at the state capitol, and it is so fun, you guys. It's so exciting. You get to learn, you get to advocate, you get to meet new people. It's such an energized and exciting day. But students and social workers get to meet with legislators face to face and push for the priorities of our legislative agenda, those priorities I outlined a moment ago. Plus, shameless plug here, if you become an AGR committee member, you can contribute to the planning of Capital Action Day and make an even bigger impact on this event year round, and that then impacts our profession for the better too. And on this screen here, you'll see a quote from one of our amazing AGR members that really reflects the impact of Capital Action Day. I'm not going to sit here and read it out loud to you guys, but looking at this quote, Pilar's words really reminded me that advocacy isn't just something extra social workers do, right? It's central to who we are as a profession. Whether we work in schools, hospitals, nonprofits, or the numerous other places that social workers can work, because social workers can do anything, we all see the consequences of unjust systems firsthand, no matter where we're working. And I like to remind myself that our code of ethics calls on us to be aware of how the political arena affects our practice, how the political arena affects the systems that we're interacting with every day, that our clients are interacting every day, and that we need to advocate for changes in policy to improve those conditions for the people we serve, make sure we're promoting social justice and that these policies are meeting basic human needs. That's in our code of ethics, right? And every day we're fighting for the communities and the people that we serve in micro ways. They're not micro, they're big ways, but like connecting people to resources, right? We do that day in and day out as social workers. But the systems causing the people we serve harm and the systems making our job and serving them more challenging. I'm getting ramped up here, guys. So make them serving people more challenging are often shaped by policy, right? And preaching to the choir on this next one here, but if we only treat the symptoms and we never address the root causes of these systemic challenges, we're not upholding our ethical obligation as social workers, right? And Capital Action Day gives us a space to do that. And I think that is so important because if we're not at the table, decisions are still going to be made, right? They're just going to be made without us. And without the voices of social workers, policy might get written by people who have not lived the experiences that we have lived as social workers, the challenges we face working as social workers, as well as those of the communities that we serve. And we change that by doing what? By showing up. And Capital Action Day helped me realize that advocacy isn't just for policy people or just for the macro social worker, right? It's an extension of the same values that brought us, or brought me at least, into the social work field in the first place. So that's my high level why this matters. But beyond that, aside from that, joining AGR, the AGR committee, and participating in Capital Action Day personally has really broadened my horizons and my understanding of social work. I've always been a macro girly through and through, but now I get to hear the perspectives of clinical social workers and school social workers and many others who teach me things that I don't have firsthand experience in, but by learning from them, it helps me translate that into the other work that I do that might not look like theirs, but we can benefit each other. And that's been really incredibly impactful for me on a personal and professional level. And last thing about this, I also joined as when I was a student. So the experience of being an AGR and attending Capital Action Day as a student was really helpful for me in trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do with my MSW degree, right? I knew I wanted to be macro, but that could be so many things. Social workers can be so many things. So hearing from people, getting involved in these activities was really meaningful to give me some confidence, build my network, build my skill set, and really understand the social work profession. So when I graduated, I felt more set up to go after what I wanted to do. So, with all that said, if you're passionate about policy or just want to learn more or meet other social workers, AGR is a great entry point to do so. And so is participating in Capital Action Day. It is an amazing day. Working with the AGR committee is also an amazing experience. You will not regret it if you sign up. And if you do want to get involved, you can reach out to Gideon and Amanda on the policy team, and they'll connect all of us together and we'll get you started and invite you to a meeting. And I hope to see some of you getting involved. And with that, I will pass it back. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for your attention.
Thank you so much, Megan. A lot of great information, and I hope you are writing it down. If not, no worries. We're sending you the information right after. So you will be able to access it. Um, Next up, we are going to have our policy team,
Great.
Amanda and Gideon.
Great. So firstly, we'll just introduce ourselves and then Gideon is going to share our presentation. I'll make you go. So my name is Amanda Presley. I'm the policy coordinator that is representing upstate New York, and I'll pass it to Gideon.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Gideon Moss. I'm the policy coordinator here at NASW, and I focus on the city. I also want to give a shout out to NYU, which is my alma mater. Thank you guys for coming over here tonight. But yeah, I'm gonna share my screen and we'll start our presentation.
Amazing. I also wanted to hold space quickly before we begin. We do have a couple AGR members in the room. So following Megan's presentation, just do any AGR members want to mention anything that they feel strongly about before we move on to our presentation? Okay, great.
Oop, something's happening.
No problem.
Give me 1 sec. Nobody look at these.
I would just ESC out of it.
I'm pressing it. Okay,
There we go.
there we go.
Hey, advocacy at
All right, let's do
NASW
it.
New York. So yeah, our main slogan here is no decision about you without you. Members lead this work, and really no steps or movement occurs without our members giving us the okay to do so. And so that is why we really invite all of you, because that is how any movement happens, is through our membership. So that's why it's very important that we're talking to you all today and also encouraging you to get involved. Next slide. So with that said, I think it's very important to note how decisions are made at the chapter, just in case you were to get involved. So firstly, we have a lot of organizations that reach out to NASW for support, whether that comes to an issue or something that they want to learn more about, that they feel there's gaps in policy around, or questions about the social work profession when it comes to licensure, ethics, or anything policy related in that world. So when we are made aware of something that we are looking to support, then that is sent to a staff member, either the executive director or Gideon and myself, or our info email that is then forwarded to us. And once we're made aware, we forward that to the correct entity. So if we're being asked for an endorsement from a campaign that wants social work support, then that would go to our PACE committee, the NASW New York State Political Action Through Candidate Election Committee. And that now is focusing on the city and also the broader New York State. So we cover the whole entire state now after we've recently unified. And with our PACE committee, we do encourage a lot of you to join that, because we do have some areas right now where we do not have representation, and that is very important. Because if we don't have representation in all these local districts, then we don't necessarily know what's happening in those local elections unless we do thorough research in that area. And so if you do want NASW to support certain candidates in your area, or if you know of any social workers running in your district, then we encourage you to get involved or send us more information about any candidates in your area, especially as the state election is upcoming next year. I know that we're done with the New York City election yesterday. I hope you all voted. But now as we're moving forward to the state election, we really do want to fill some of those gaps in the state that we're not aware of. And then if we get sent a bill, or if we get sent an issue that is affecting social work or the clients they serve, then that is then forwarded to the Advocacy and Government Relations Committee. And they basically give feedback on email, or we discuss that at our monthly meetings. And we meet monthly with AGR on that. Also, in conjunction with the Advocacy and Government Relations Committee, any issue is sent to our board of directors as well. They must approve all of our priorities. So after we voted on these CAD priorities, they were approved by the board of directors, thankfully. So now we got the go ahead. So that just really shows how much oversight is included when we make these decisions at the chapter. And of course, all of the decisions are governed by the code of ethics, and everything must be in alignment with that.
All of this is also just to add on to highlight that slogan that we were talking about at the beginning, where no choice is made about you without you. Everything that we do at this chapter, we try to highlight and make sure that our base and social workers in general really understand what is happening and what the policy aspect is. The policy aspect of NASW is. We want to make sure that the broader public and NASW as a whole, social workers as a whole, really understand what we're doing. Okay. So Capital Action Day. We've already discussed a bit about Capital Action Day. Again, it's going to be on February 10th, 2026. It is where we will go up to Albany and rally up legislators to help with our priorities that were previously mentioned by Megan so kindly. And this is obviously such a great day just because it really shows advocacy through social work. And it's a key day to really prove our point, is what I would say. It's highly important just because it really shows that we still are caring, like we as a broader public still demand things as social workers, and that we need these specific priorities done. And when legislators see people rally and come together in New York, it's highly important to them, and that's what really gets them to get the ball moving, I would say. Amanda, is there anything you want to add to that?
Nope. Let's go on to the next one. And then I do have a video here, so go ahead and press play on that.
Tell me if you guys can hear it also.
You might have to share sound.
Oh, can you
Yeah,
guys hear that?
you just have to reshare your screen and share the sound.
Uh-oh.
Honestly, we really. Oh, there we go.
Can you guys hear that? Perfect.
If I could do it, then work on you. Get up and make it work. Yo, if I could do it, then work on you. Get up and make it work. Ain't no way that I'm sitting around. It's now or never. I'm picking it first. You can't tell me.
So obviously, this really highlights Capital Action Day as a whole. You can see us in an incredible edit, honestly, going around to the legislator, going around to fellow politicians, and really making our voices heard. It is highly important, and we are honestly very ecstatic that we know a lot of you are actually coming to Capital Action Day this upcoming year. So thank you guys for coming and doing that with us.
Yeah, and we have a new TikTok account, by the way, in case you all aren't following us yet. So I dropped the link to that in the chat. But we made this video for TikTok, and basically this is stressing the need for us to find partners in this work. And that is because we truly fund our Capital Action Day all through fundraising. And we really want to make the most memorable event for our members and also show a strong collective in front of the legislature and the governor. And to do this, we like to support by getting breakfast and lunch for attendees, and also through getting bags for everybody who arrives with things like folders, different sheets with talking points and things of the like. And also, we weren't able to do this last year, but for this year, we would like to get everyone shirts. So when you do arrive on the day, everyone's wearing the same shirt. And that really shows a strong collective while we're walking through the halls of the Capitol and while we're standing on the steps and demanding change, because people are like, wow, those social workers, like, there's a lot of them, and that really shows a strong collective and helps to make our message heard. Because legislators, they don't necessarily take you seriously unless they feel as though it's a strong organization that is backing what these asks are. And having the resources to be able to make that happen is incredibly critical. And so what we're asking today is that you share any organizations with us that you feel should support mental health or that would align with this goal that are in your area. And also, we call on you to donate if you are financially able to do so. We have dropped the link in the chat for that. And I just do want to make a disclaimer that this is a new website as we've unified. And so you do have to have an account to log in. But as you're creating this account, you can make a non-member account. So you do not have to be a member to register for Capital Action Day, which is not opened yet fully. At the moment, it's exclusive to members and some students for the registration, and that will launch in December. For now, our donation portal and sponsorship portal is up and launched, and I've just dropped that in the chat. But really, any amount makes a difference, and that could, buy a couple bagels for some students that are coming if you donate $10 or $5. So any amount helps, and we really appreciate any support. Yeah, and then we just have some quotes from last year. So Brian Jimenez, he was a student last year that came from Fordham University. And our students actually gave us some great feedback last year. We had a lot of students come from Syracuse University, and they stressed the need for the advocacy training before CAD, which is why we have this amazing lineup actually of the fall of 2025 policy series based on student feedback. And so we really do appreciate the students that come to our day and also all the experienced advocates that can lend that lens to the students and help them as they're going to meetings, because we understand that it can be intimidating for people if it's their first time walking into a room with a legislator or stepping into the Capitol. And so that is why we want to give everyone the best resources that they have for the day. And so Brian just said that he was deeply thankful to attend the day, and it really sparked his passion for macro social work. And he is actually a member of the United Nations right now, so he's really thriving in advocacy. Um, and Herman Sanchez, who was our New York City board president, he was a speaker at Capital Action Day. And what his quote says really resonates, where it's not just one day of advocacy. It's about going out there every day and doing what's right for those we serve. And so I did want to take a minute to drop the Loan Forgiveness Act now in the chat one more time. And if you do complete this, drop a fire emoji in the chat. We really want the governor to understand that social workers need some relief. They're already encumbered with high amounts of debt from loans. We know social workers don't necessarily always get the highest salary, which is another priority that we have. So we understand, we want to raise those salaries, but if the least we can do is get you some money towards your loans, then that is what we think that we have some movement on this year. So thank you everyone for completing that. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Pilar. Thank you, Kenya. All right, awesome. Great. We got some act nows going. All right, so let's move on. And then,
Okay.
oh, I'm sorry.
You got it. You got it.
Oh, you're valid.
All right, the policy corner. So the policy corner newsletter we release every Monday to our membership. It is where we discuss the happenings in the moment of New York. It is where a lot of our we've learned that a lot of our base is actually getting a bit of their news from that when it comes specifically to social work, and we're learning that. Not only does it really work for NASW New York, but a lot of other chapters are taking this on. So we release latest updates when it comes to our policy priorities, things that we are specifically interested in, and things that we just really believe social workers in total should be focusing on and understanding more. We really go into some detail over it. Let's. I'm gonna actually click on one of these and we can show you guys kind of what it looks like. So this is the newsletter. It's just another perk of being a member again. We give you all of the updates when it comes to federal government rulings and bills that we are interested in, along with many act nows, all specifically in relation to social work. So we highly recommend becoming a member and getting on the letter. It's a great time. We also will post advertising for events like this. We've been in collaboration with the Catal Group for a bit now. And we do this pro-democracy community phone zap occasionally with them, which is honestly incredibly helpful. It's very nice to be able to speak to some of the legislators here in New York. I'm gonna get back to it. But yeah. All right.
Okay, so we try to make it out in public a lot to show our face to the community because we know that social workers aren't always aware of what we're doing and they also don't know that we exist sometimes, right? And so going into the community and connecting with the people that are on the ground every day doing this work is what alarms us to certain issues in different areas. Like for instance, I went to Albany to the Pride Festival and met a few school social workers in Albany that were telling me about what's happening in those particular school districts. Also, I went to a community event in Queens, a resource fair, to be able to provide different things like backpacks, pens, and pencils to different students in the community. And then on the right here, we had a happy hour event actually in Syracuse where we invited a lot of the people that came to CAD last year from the area. And we're actually able to have a nice roundtable discussion on what's going on in the area. Is there anything that I should be aware of? And is there anything that they are not aware of that NASW is doing that they want to get involved in? And so we really encourage you to send us any community engagement events or opportunities for tabling that are happening in your area. I'm going to drop my email in the chat again, because we are avidly looking to get out in the community. And, because we are fully remote and all our staff is fully remote, We really make this effort to table in certain areas just so that we can be forward facing to the communities.
Okay, so rallying, very similarly to the community events, you will see us at most of the rallies when it comes to specifically social work, let alone federal government and what has been going on recently. So, as an example, I was at this bottom right rally here for ADA. Incredible turnout here. We shut down a lot of downtown New York, right by NYU's campus in between Washington Square Park and Union. Um, there were a few of these Medicaid rallies, and as we know, with the government shutdown going on right now, we won't be surprised if there's some more that start popping up as things continue to get cut. So we are consistently going to be showing we're going to consistently show up to these. And if there's any rally that you deem interesting and you think we should know about, please again let us know. I will, after this presentation, make sure to drop my email as well into the chat so that we can discuss. And if there's anything you want NASW to be a part on, we would love to know, and we'd love to get to it, get our feet on the ground. It's the best way to really show um, political power, I'd argue. So.
We do have a couple minutes, and we do want to get to our next speaker. And so we'll try to get through these next few slides in a couple minutes. This next one, our recent deadline for the Currents false article did just pass, but we really encourage anyone who is attending Capital Action Day and especially interested in joining our advocacy committees to write an op-ed about any of the priorities that we're advocating for. And if you do write an op-ed, then we will use that in our advocacy. And that'll be very helpful as we're going to legislators and also as we're seeking press opportunities to have that social work perspective, because all of your perspectives are incredibly important to our advocacy because there is a lot of different elements that you are all experiencing that we may not be aware of. And that will just make our argument so much more stronger if we have different perspective and voices. And then I wanted to take some time today to talk about the coalitions that we are a part of. So in addition to the priorities that we advocate for at CAD, we do also support the priorities of other organizations. And so I just want to go quickly through a couple of these organizations. I'll go first with Social Workers for Justice and the Licensing Coalition. For the last 3 years, we've been a part of the Social Work Workforce Act, which is to repeal the requirement for the ASWB exam. And that was in response to the ASWB results that came out about biases in the passage rates. And so I wanted to share with you first the Social Workers for Justice website. They do have bi-weekly coalition meetings around this bill. If you're interested in joining Social Workers for Justice, I just dropped that link in the chat. And also I want to share an update about Resolution 362A in New York City Council. The New York City Council recently endorsed the Social Work Workforce Act. And so this recent resolution, which passed in the New York City Council, is actually the city calling on the governor to sign and the legislature to pass the Social Work Workforce Act. And then with the Catal Center, who we recently mentioned, they're fighting very hard right now to pass the omnibus bill. And this would include common sense prison reform. This is in response to the Robert Brooks horrible tragedy that occurred a couple of years ago. And this would basically require incarcerated individuals to have camera coverage of them at all time and for there to be access to such camera recordings. It would also provide notice of death for incarcerated individuals in the custody of the Department of Corrections and a few other common sense prison reform pieces. And so I'm dropping the act now in the chat and also the link to the omnibus bill, which actually includes several other bills into one Frankenstein bill, because that made it most easy to pass because the governor historically has not passed a lot of prison reform. We saw that last year when she vetoed the Jury of Our Peers bill in December, right before the session ended. And so we really are trying to pressure the governor to pass this bill to stop the atrocities that are happening at Rikers and prisons across the nation when it comes to abuse of incarcerated individuals. And then we've been fighting for the New York Health Act for many years now. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for that. We have been fighting for that with positions for a national health program. And that is basically for everybody to have comprehensive health coverage, no, regardless of your position. And healthcare is a human right, so I strongly encourage you to check out the New York Health Act. It has never been greater, especially as we have all these cuts to Medicaid, and as a lot of people are going to lose health insurance. And they actually have a town hall coming up, which I'll drop in the chat as well, and that's going to be next week. And then for social workers against solitary confinement, we recently signed on to a bill to prevent the compliance of health professionals and torture of incarcerated individuals. And so I really encourage you to check out social workers and allies against solitary confinement. And then we have a better balance, which we've been fighting for temporary disability insurance for a long time now with them. That is essentially to, if you are on paid medical leave, or if you become pregnant, for instance, or if you break your leg and you need to take leave off work, the current program in New York State only gives you about $200 a week. It is nothing that you're able to live off of. It's nothing sustainable, especially with the rising cost of living. And so a better balance is looking for stories from social workers, because they want to know your experience, if you've had to take leave or if you have any clients that have experienced trauma when it comes to leave. And then lastly, we have the right to remain silent, which is led by Legal Aid Society. And that bill is essentially to protect our youth that are interrogated by police. So that requires that parents be present if a minor is interrogated by police, and a lot of other protections for youth. All right, go to the next one. And then we do have an upcoming event. We have a school social worker series, which if you want to get more into the school mental health world and information about that, I really encourage you to check that out. I'm just going to drop the link in the chat for that quickly. But Senator Brooke, the chair of the Mental Health Committee, whose bill we are supporting, S376, will be speaking on this issue. Next one. And then we have our last event tomorrow, the advocacy training, which is led by Cornell Public Policy Institute. They have an amazing group. They have a very comprehensive training. So feel free to check that event out tomorrow. And then lastly, with SNAP benefits being cut, we do want to take a moment to address that. We have recently put out a statement that includes resources for specific regions in the state. And also National has created an act now to put pressure on the government to release funding to the states for these vital programs. Because food is a human right, and we do want to support any areas that we can to support food security across the nation. And there we are. I want to leave some space for our last speaker, so we're all set for our presentation, so you can go ahead and unshare, Gideon.
Yeah, thank you guys as well. I'm going to drop my email as well into the chat. Please reach out.
Perfect. And now, without further ado, I want to introduce our last speaker, Allysha Bryant, the chair of the NASW New York PACE Committee.
Thank you, Amanda and Gideon. I think you set me up perfect for what we're about to talk about, which is our PACE committee. As you all know, or I hope you know, yesterday was election day. And so I hope that you all went out to vote. And off of the conversation that Amanda just had with us about like SNAP and the Social Work Workforce Act and all these other priorities that NASW is looking to push, you know, one of the ways, obviously, that legislation happens is through the candidates that we elect into office. And so PACE is the arm of NASW that endorses candidates for election. Um, so this is me. I won't bore you with all the details. Um, but I do love working here with NASW as the chair of the PACE committee. So what is PACE? PACE stands for the Political Action for Candidate Election Committee. This is the part of the chapter that endorses candidates. So we do centralize political action. In New York, we do have representation or hope to have representation of all 14 divisions across the state. I am located geographically in New York City, and as most of you, I hope you know that we did recently transition and merged the New York State and New York City chapter together. So now we are looking to have, there's a lot of folks on the committee who represent New York City, but then also recognizing that we can't possibly know everything that's happening in every region across the state. And so, part of the reason why I'm here is to also hopefully people are interested and excited about politics and wanting to get closer to elected officials in their areas. So we want to encourage people from different regions to join. So one of the things that we seek to do is endorse candidates aligned with social work values. We know that there aren't necessarily as many social workers running for office as we would like to. Of course, that's something that we would love to support. However, working with what we have, we endorse candidates that are social work aligned. And then this helps to strengthen the profession's voice in politics. And I like to think that PACE is where advocacy meets elections and our values, centering equity, justice, and dignity on the ballot. So why PACE matters? So laws don't pass themselves, right? Leaders do. And so without us kind of backing and supporting, if it's a social worker or social work aligned candidates, then how does like social work's voice get represented in legislation? Endorsements equal policy champions in office. So our hope obviously is that as we endorse candidates, I know you heard from Megan, when they go back and we're looking at like, okay, who can we call on to sponsor or support our NASW's legislative agenda, that we will then be able to call on those individuals that we endorsed to support our priorities. And so PACE plus AGR equals legislative plus political power. So what we do, we screen and endorse candidates who share social work priorities, mobilize members to support campaigns, educate the professional and civic engagement, partner with AGR to connect endorsements to legislation, and we help elect the people who help shape our policies. And I'll go into a little bit of like what the endorsement process looks like next. So we have a questionnaire that we've developed, and sometimes candidates will either solicit us to, get our endorsement because they understand how powerful NASW's voice is and having our backing, like what that means for them and for their campaign and their constituents. Or sometimes we will reach out to them. So it really just depends. As a committee, we will decide like and identify who we would like to endorse or reach out to, and then we'll send them questionnaire. So they will receive the questionnaire. Hopefully they fill it out. Once they complete the questionnaire, then we will have interviews with those candidates. Then the committee will vote. And then after that, depending on, whether the committee says yay or nay, then we will have a public endorsement and announce across the state, like the candidates that we've endorsed in the election cycle. So why our endorsements matter? This helps to build candidate credibility with voters. NASW is a powerful force. It shows our members and our clients that we serve that these candidates are social work aligned. So hopefully, right, if they're having any challenges, things like that, they can go to these individuals and they will support them in whatever the challenges are that they're having. Maybe they might hire a social worker to work out of their office. And it gives social workers leverage in Albany, influences legislative priorities early, and helps to raise the profile of the profession. Sorry, I'm going very quickly because I'm watching the time and I don't want to go over. So obviously it was just election day yesterday, and we did endorse a slate of candidates for the 2025 election. So the candidates are here that we endorsed. We endorsed Linda Lee in City Council District 23, Justin Sanchez in City Council District 17, Donovan Richards for Queensborough President, Harvey Epstein for City Council District 2, Kayla, I apologize if I say this incorrectly, Sentuso, um, City Council District 47, Christopher Marte, City Council District 1, and Alexa Aviles in City Council District 38. So if you see them, if you live in any of these districts and you see them around, tell them congratulations on NASW's endorsement on their campaigns. And our goals for 2025, 2026, grow member participation in PACE, strengthen our collaborations with AGR. So one of the things that I hope to do, especially off the heels of what Amanda just said, is like co-author op-eds and things that we can amplify social workers' voices and kind of merge the committees together in a way where we can work on some of these things just to have more involvement, because both committees are powerful in their own right, but I believe collective power is where we need to focus our attention. And we want to build a deeper endorsement pipeline, getting more candidates to know who we are and seek out our endorsements, and also respond to the questionnaires when we send them out, and expand our funding to support campaigns. So some of the ways that you can get involved is to obviously join PACE. I think I'm a very nice person. I won't bite. I would totally love if any of you decided you wanted to join the committee. You can help volunteer on campaigns, phone bank, canvas, increase visibility, especially for candidates that we have endorsed or that we're seeking to endorse. Help mobilize voters, help us get out the vote, spread the word, share the endorsements, the candidates that we've endorsed in your networks. Donate to PACE. So this is one of the ways that we're able to build up our campaign endorsement fund. So when you renew your membership, there's like a little box and it says like you can donate to PACE. Click that box. Please tell your friends, to all the people, to click the box to donate to PACE, because that gives us more money that we're able to endorse more candidates. And especially if we have social workers, then we will endorse them at a higher rate than we will endorse other candidates. And then be a PACE ambassador. You can help us organize events and expand our reach. Oh, this is where I kind of went over this. So yes, you click, yes, I want to donate to PACE. And this helps us have stronger advocacy. So just to summarize, join PACE, volunteer on campaigns, support AGR, donate to PACE when you renew your membership, and help us organize our events. So that's our call to action. And here is my contact information if anyone wants to scan this lovely QR code that took me 12 years to make. And I'm right on time, 7 o'clock. Look at that.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much, Allysha and Megan, for presenting today. I do want to be mindful of everybody's time. It is 7 p.m., so the event is officially over. However, Gideon and myself will hang by for another couple minutes just in case anyone has any questions. But thank you everyone for coming today. We will send a follow-up email with all the resources from today so that you can expand on your action in helping the social work community and the advocacy that we are trying to do. This is a very unprecedented time with everything happening, with food, food funding being lost federal level, and with social work being attacked in a lot of different areas. we are really increasing a lot of the work that we are doing. So we look forward to seeing all of you at Capital Action Day on February 10th, and have an amazing rest of your night.
Thanks.